So I found out about this early access game, Temtem, the other day. In fact, it was probably like 2 weeks ago, something like that. I remember the first time that I heard of it, I just thought, that just looks exactly like Pokemon. And it turns out that seems to be the intention. As far as I can tell, it's a Spanish developer, and their main intention seems to have been to create a Pokemon MMO. So if you're not kind of clued up on the term MMO, an MMO is a massively multiplayer online game. So Temtem's working in a world where everybody's online all at the same time. Now this appealed to me for a couple of reasons, and I think the main one was that it feels like, to me, what Pokemon should have been maybe 5-6 years ago, at least working towards, and it still feels like Pokemon's slightly outdated in a lot of ways. Just a little bit of my background. I'm a Pokemon fan in the same way that I'm a Star Wars fan. I like the universe that Star Wars is in. I'm not necessarily a massive fan of the films. Like, I'll watch the films and I think, oh, that was okay, but they're not amazing films to me. What really attracts me to Star Wars is the universe and the world building and the kind of themes around Star Wars. Now, in a similar way, Pokemon is like that to me as well. I've played the games. I played the games when I was, a teenager and younger than that, and I enjoyed them. Played Red and Blue, and I probably played like some of the other colours throughout it. But I'm not a massive Pokemon fan in the sense that I play, every game that comes out to completion. So I'm more of a fan of Pokemon in the sense that I watched the anime and I really liked the world that Pokemon was centered around, and the kind of fantasy of Pokemon. That's where I'm coming from. I've always felt like Game Freak have been a little bit lazy with Pokemon. Like, every single game, to me, I didn't feel like there was a lot of progression being made as far as game development goes. And I think with Temtem, it interests me because there's not really anything like this on the market. People have tried to rip off Pokemon, but I like the fact that Temtem is unashamedly... I like the fact that Temtem is unashamedly... That's the word. I'm just going to say that's the word. Ripping off Pokemon, but then saying, well, we're going to do something different. So here are the things that are as different as far as I can tell in the gameplay that I've had so far. Only about maybe 4 hours maximum. I mean, the launch day was a mess, but it's an MMO, so I'm not going to get too caught up on that. The whole game can be played co-op, so whenever you want, you can join a friend, and they will be able to join you and play the whole game through, which is quite interesting. I think that's a really appealing element to it. The battles are always duos, so you will always have 2 Temtem out, and if you're against a trainer, most of the time they're going to have 2 Temtem against you. Now, one of the things that I really like about this system is they're not just kind of like putting 2 Temtem out so that you can so it enables co-op for the whole game. There's actual synchronized. Yeah, I can't say that word either. Oh, that's why. There's synergy between the Temtem, so certain moves will work well with other certain moves, and certain Temtem work well with other ones. Like, for instance, I was playing with a Tetaru. Let's say Tetaru. I was playing with a Tetaru Temtem, and it had a special attribute that enabled it to not wake up sleeping Temtem. So if you were to put a Temtem to sleep, then Tetaru was to attack it, then the likelihood was that it would stay asleep. So there's things like that that's happening in the game, but there's a lot of stuff that it's over my head. I've got to be honest, I'm not very good at these kind of games. I like them, but I'm not particularly good at them. I'm definitely willing to delve deeper into it, and I think I probably will. But for now, I just know that they exist. And I mean, I'm like 4 hours into the game, and I've just been like finding the strongest attack every time. And I've just been mashing that one. So I've not even got into the whole. I mean, there's a stamina system in the game, so if your stamina runs out, then your Temtem will actually start to damage itself. There's something else. I don't know what else there is. What's unique about it. And the battles are different to Pokemon in ways that they are less RNG based. So RNG means random number generator, and that just means that the things like, I don't think there's critical hits in it. I might be mistaken, but I don't think there's crits in it, and things like misses and all that kind of stuff that can happen, that has a chance to happen. So there's like less luck involved, but more hopefully skill involved, which is also, I think, a good choice. Yeah, it looks like, as far as I've seen, obviously I've not got to this level yet, but it looks like when you're competing later on, there'll be like a banning system for Temtem, which is quite nice. Hopefully that means that the kind of meta of the game will be a little bit more fluid at the end game, but who knows. At the moment the game's in early access, so they've done 50% of the game, they say, roughly. It's kind of like 20 hours gameplay, and they're planning on constantly adding to the game throughout this year and having it ready for a 2021 release for consoles as well as PC. And they've talked about crossplay, which makes me quite interested, because I like the idea of being able to maybe play on my Switch and then pick up on my PC, which I think would be a cool little idea. I think for me as well, I just like the idea that there could be somebody who could not dethrone Pokemon, because I mean Pokemon's just like the biggest franchise in the world basically. I think it even rivals Disney with that. I feel like it needs something to push innovation. Like, Pokemon to me is quite a stale franchise, and even I think with Sword and Shield, a lot of people have come to that conclusion that they feel like Game Freak should be doing more maybe, and I can kind of completely see where they're coming from. Things like the wild area I think are really, really positive steps, but a lot of the other functions of Pokemon seem to be a little bit outdated. So, but it's funny because a lot of Temtem's based on like almost like an older style of Pokemon, and they're innovating on that, because there's new changes in Sword and Shield that Temtem hasn't chosen to take on as well. I can't think of anything else I want to say on it. I wouldn't recommend buying it because it's early access, and I have a pretty strict rule of no early access, because you're kind of paying for a product before it's completed. For me, with this particular game, in my head I was like, well, even if it doesn't develop any more than these first 20 hours, I'm happy to pay, what is it, £28 or $35 or whatever. I'm happy to pay £28 and just to enjoy this on PC, because I just don't want to buy Pokemon on my Switch. And I think because I like playing on PC, it supports ultra wide, so I thought, I'll give it a shot, and I like the idea of supporting somebody who's going to try and do something different. I think you should check it out at the very least. Watch some streams on it and some videos. But it looks like it's going to be a decent contender, Pokemon contender. I'd like to see that anyway, and obviously the multiplayer elements of it make it quite good. So anyway, I'm gonna play some Pokemon. I think it's not even Pokemon. It's not Pokemon. The amount of times that during this video I've tried to say Pokemon instead of saying Temtem. 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 Temtem.